You're listening to the Coach's Journey podcast, exposing the struggles and celebrating the successes in the life of coaches who are action takers and creating authentic impact in today's world. Whether you're just starting out, expanding your reach, or exploding your impact, you're in the right place right now. Stay tuned and be sure to subscribe to this podcast. Now, here are your hosts of the Coach's Journey podcast.
What's up, Coaches Nation? It's Dr. Sheri with another episode of the Coach's Journey podcast here with Faisal Ensaun. And we've got an exciting topic today. If you listened to last week's episode, which was about why your ideal client may not actually be your ideal client, today's a follow-up to that. And the follow-up is how do we really identify our ideal client and put the gas pedal to the metal in getting more of them? Because a business that has more of your ideal clients is going to be more profitable and a heck of a lot more fun than having to hit your head against the wall because you're working with clients that are frustrating to you or that just suck your energy of life out of you. So if you've had that experience or you don't want to have that experience, you will want to listen to this. And so we've got a 4-part framework to share with you, 4 steps that you can take so that at the end of those 4 steps, you've got some amazing clients that you look forward to serving as a coach. All right. So I'm excited about this one.
Me too. And this is sort of a part 2 of the last conversation that we had around this, was around why your ideal clients are not your ideal clients and how can you think about your ideal clients. So definitely review that, because some of the elements of that we're just going to quickly recap, but that we did a whole 30+ minute conversation around that. That's going to help you a lot to think about how you can think about who your ideal clients are. And this one, we'll talk about what might be the phases and process you can go through to connect with your ideal clients.
Yes. Yeah. So let's just jump into it.
Yeah, let's do it. And also definitely share this with, whether you're listening to this live or on YouTube, share this with your coaches who are your friends, whether you went through a certification together, because we know that coaches struggle to build their business and hone their craft because the industry itself hasn't developed as well yet. It's still in the infancy stages, and our mission is to support coaches to develop their business, their craft, to serve more clients, whether they're individuals, families, communities, organizations. So we'd appreciate it if you can share this video or audio with a friend who might be a coach.
Absolutely. So our step 1 is obvious, but not obvious. And here's why. First of all, step 1 is coach, coach, coach. Now, the reason that feels obvious is because we're coaches, shouldn't that be what we're doing? Here's why it's not obvious. I have deep dived over the last 6 to 7 years in internet marketing, and there is so much talk around figuring out your ideal avatar and, completely understanding them. There's so much talk about that what I've seen happens is that coaches think that's the first step of their business, is they have to figure that all of that out first so they know how to properly market. Now, there's some I'm not saying that's wrong to figure that out, but that's why we're doing this episode, is because if that's the first thing you focus on, you're actually, I would say, adding to the amount of time it's going to take you to actually find your avatar, the ideal person that you can connect with and support as a coach. Because here's what happens. Here's what happened to me. So when I first started coaching, the kind of individual that I was used to coaching, used to working with as a psychologist, was a business owner. And I'm talking like a small business owner, like a brick and mortar kind of business owner. And when I pivoted into coaching, I only was focused on that. And first of all, there weren't enough of them in my local area that I could legitimately convert to clients. So right off the bat, my business was limited. And secondly, the more that I worked with a couple of them, I realized that there were some aspects that I didn't feel super excited about. So then I had to rework and figure out, oh crap, I thought I knew this, now I didn't, now what? So it really threw me off because I thought I had it figured out, and so I went for it, and then it didn't. Kind of, I had some epiphanies and awarenesses, and so it was like this circuitous journey to try to figure it out, which I'm far more clear on that now, years later. But if I had just kind of gone into it with more of an open mind to just coach anyone and everyone that I could serve and that I had capacity to, and just be more open-minded on the front end, then I could have had a broader number of people that I could have kind of honed it down over time, which is literally the framework we're going to show you.
Yeah, and also just another caveat around this is that if you know exactly who your ideal client is and you feel excited about it, you know what they're about, know what that is, and you're targeting those clients, no problems with that. If you've gone through an avatar building experience, like you've gone through it, nothing wrong with those exercises, just do it, but don't take it too seriously. This is what we find often when coaches go through that, they actually bog down more. They're like, well, I can't figure it out, and they don't do anything. They're just like, I need to figure this out before I do anything. And that's not a good thing, because then they will just sit there and not work with people. And that actually slows down or stops their growth. But most coaches that I've run into, and like most of them didn't know who the hell their ideal clients were. And sometimes you might think, well, the people in your network or the people they've worked with, sometimes they don't. I completely changed industries. I didn't want to work with engineers, and I hadn't even worked in the field for more than 2 years. So it was like I didn't have enough built long-term relationships built in there. And on top of that, I wasn't interested in the path that they were in, clearly, because I wanted to get out of it.
Right.
So I went in a completely different direction around that. So just as a caveat, and the first time I heard that statement, coach, it was actually in Rich Littman's book and Steve Chandler's book, The Prosperous Coach. And when it hit me, it really hit me like a brick. I read it a couple of times before it hit me. And then I was thinking about it as like, this is why you're not getting clients, because you're not coaching enough. You're not working with people enough. You're sitting there theoretically thinking about working with clients. But when you have clients on your calendar, I don't care who that is. And that's where, and Rich Littman shares this, is that what gave him an edge was that in the first couple of years, he worked with a lot of clients, a lot of different kinds. And then through that iterative process, he started learning who to work with. And by the way, that's an entrepreneurship path too. We're taught from an academic, if you've gone through any kind of schooling, from an academic standpoint, you're not supposed to iterate as much. You're supposed to kind of live in the world of intellect. But in the entrepreneurship world, iteration is what defines your growth, especially in the beginning stages, that you need to work enough in the field, be in the field enough, practice enough, understand, get feedback, understand how other people are doing, for you to actually understand what the process looks like and how you can do this better. So when you coach, when you start working with anybody, then that actually opens you up to understanding who your ideal clients are. Just a couple of things to keep in mind. We talked about this extensively in the last podcast. One, just keep in mind that they need to be the right demographic from a financial standpoint. That's be very aware of that. A lot of coaches have a struggle with that because they will work with people who don't need their coaching. They might not even be people who don't need some kind of coaching. They might be people who need therapy or some other kind of support. So they think they can work with everybody. So that demographic is important. So if your program is like $3,000, don't work with somebody who makes $3,000 a month as an income, because they're not going to pay you that money, or it's not even fair for them to pay you that money instead of giving that to their mortgage and food and other things. We go into this in detail. Watch the last episode. You'll see it on our YouTube channel and other places right before this. How and the topic is your ideal clients are not your ideal clients, something like that. Why your ideal clients are not your ideal clients. And then the second piece of it, we're gonna actually go into that, is around patterns. And maybe Sheri, you can jump into that a little bit, and then I'll expand on it more too.
Absolutely. So to recap, number one, the first step is just coach. Don't be super selective, super picky. Just be open to serving whoever comes into your world. And that will give you so much cool and rich experience, which then goes into the seconds. As you're having this rich experience, start to pay attention to the aspects of your clients that are similar to each other, like finding patterns in the clients that you're working with that you really enjoy working with. And how about the clients that are draining? Now, anytime I talk about this, I always feel compelled to kind of differentiate two things. There's clients that I've worked with in the past that I could easily dismiss as frustrating and draining, but that's because they were clients that challenged me to grow. It didn't mean they were the wrong or not ideal client. It just means that they were exposing some deficits and a skill set that I didn't quite have yet. That is not necessarily a reason to say they're not your ideal client. So I just want to plant the seed. Just because you're exhausted after a session and maybe you don't feel super great about it, maybe that's just an indicator you need to level up. But there are going to be some clients that you work with that are frustrating or that are draining or that just don't excite you. And I look at that, we look at that as a recognition that maybe there's a disconnect between what I value in life and what they value, or my goals, their goals. And not that I have to work with clients that are just like me, but if there is a significant difference in some of these areas that matter to you as the coach, that might present a different energy for you in your coaching. So these are things to be aware of. And I don't think it's the same for all of us across the board as coaches, but just notice those things, those patterns that you're seeing in your clients, either on the side of ideal client or not ideal client, and start to interpret, what does that mean for you?
Yeah, I love that. And I have a really good similar analogy to this. And that's actually if you're married, that's in your marriage. Your wife or husband could be draining a lot of times. If you've been in a relationship long enough, you know that, of course, there's two different souls, two different individuals with different personalities, different backgrounds. You're going to run into conflict. That's normal. So if every time you got into a conflict, you're like, oh man, I've had enough of this person, I'm going. Of course, you're going to have thoughts around that, but I'm saying, like, you should take off. That's not going to sustain your relationship. So I think the thing to clarify here is that, well, why are you with your husband, life partner or business partner or whoever, is that you see a long-term potential for that. You see a deeper connection in there. You see alignment in terms of core values in there. There are a lot of major things that line up. Your personalities could be completely different. Your approach could become, and in fact, you could look at the world completely differently in some senses. But because you're actually growing with that person, you actually value that, even though it can be draining in the micro, but in the macro, it can be expansive. It can be like you're growing as a person. That's kind of how I look at my clients, is that my clients have challenged me to grow as a human being, because as a coach, because when I've gone into situations, I did not know how to help them. I did not know how to support them. I had to go get feedback. I had to learn more. I had to practice more. I had to figure out where I could support them. I had to do, I can tell you how many times I've offered, especially in the beginning stages, 5, 6, 7 sessions for free, just because I didn't feel good about it. And I'm like, no, I didn't support this client. I want to learn this. They appreciated it. They could see that I was struggling and I was growing in that area, but they helped me grow. So the draining part that comes in that I want everybody to be aware of is that when the major things don't align. For example, I don't like working with clients who don't have bigger vision for their life. Like they just want to solve enough problems to feel comfortable in their life, and they just lead their life. And I've worked with clients like that. As soon as they solve their problem currently, they just move on. They normalize, and they don't want to grow past that. They're not my ideal clients. I feel drained by that, and because I want to help them expand their vision. I want to grow with them. I want to see what else can they do. I want to poke around in areas, and those clients actually get excited by challenge. When the ones who want to expand, who want to grow, who have a bigger vision. I actually just got a testimonial the other day. It was interesting how he communicated in the testimonial. The way he put it is that Faisal just takes away all the excuses and bears you down, and then you don't have no direction to go. But it's great and exciting. He didn't look at that as a negative thing, that I push him and challenge him and poke around in areas that he might be making excuses, not moving forward, and help him expand his vision. That excites me. It excites him, and we grow together, and I watch his journey. That is, and this is why I work with multifamily investors. This is why I work with coaches, because they tend to have that mindset. So keeping that, and as you work with more people, you will notice that you get really excited and notice your pattern before you get on a call. How do you feel?
Yes.
Of course, in the beginning, everybody's nervous. You're still working through your skill set, but over time, you will notice that the clients that you feel excited to jump on that call with, the clients when you're in the call and you feel just as challenged as they do, they are some of the best clients you have. But if you're before the call, you're like, oh man, I don't feel like jumping on this call. I don't know how it's going to be, and all that stuff. You're probably not the right clients, and you're going to run into a few of those clients. In the first 4 or 5 years of my coaching, I went through quite a few of those clients. And every time I went through, I'm like, I don't want any more clients like that. Like, it was like painful to have. And it's not fair to them either, because I'm not the right coach to them. So it's not just about me that, oh, I'm a great coach. It's also for the client. They might need a different coach or a different kind of support.
Absolutely. Yeah, I had an interesting conversation yesterday with another coach, and he was actually interviewing me to provide me support because he's kind of developing this new program, integrating AI with helping people move forward in their coaching business. Super fascinating. So basically, it was 2 hours of him kind of asking me questions and interviewing me about like who is my ideal client, who are a couple of the clients that come to mind that I've loved working with, who have I not liked working with. And as he was asking me these questions, I legitimately was thinking about these things. And it was interesting because one of the things I realized is I dismissed a whole group of people because I assumed they were fairly similar and they had some characteristics that I really didn't love. And I realized that my bias against them was based on the kind those people that I know locally, but locally very different than the national scene. And so this was a realization I had yesterday. I was like, oh, the reason I initially dismissed this group of people is that I by any other stretch of the imagination, I probably should be, they would be my ideal clients. The reason I dismissed them is because I had this bias based on my relationship with some people locally. But I realized that my relationship with a few people locally did not generalize well to the entire rest of North America. So also notice if you've got some your own biases based on your past experience with one or two or a handful of people. And have you kind of already foreclosed on the idea that they're not, nope, don't want to work with them? But maybe that's not accurate either. Maybe be open to the idea that your experience with a few people may not be actually representative of the larger group.
Yeah, and those things too. And then all this comes slowly as you work with people, as you iterate more. And by the way, that's been our journey even in CMC, not just in our personal coaching business. CMC, we've worked with enough coaches, and we're still in the process of understanding who our ideal clients are, but it's becoming more and more clear. And our clients give us feedback. We notice that the clients who are our ideal clients, we get excited to be around them. We want them to be in session. The clients who are not ideal, we're like, oh man, this client again, that client. And actually, I don't feel good about that. I'm like, it's not fair to them. We're not the right community for them either. So it's on both sides. And the thing that will be sustainable is when you are excited to support your client. And even if you're going through the struggle of trying to support them and you're learning that process, that's still exciting. That still is challenging to grow, challenging you to grow as a coach, as a business when you work with those clients. So pay attention to that pattern. And just, I want to clarify one point. The point of finding your avatar, the point of narrowing down is so you focus your attention. That's all it is. You focus your attention when you're doing your marketing, your sales, so you can talk to those people directly and you can pull them, you understand them, their challenges, their path, so they see you and you see them. That doesn't mean you won't work with other kinds of clients. And like right now, I'm working with an executive, I'm working with an IT manager, and these are like about 10%, 5 to 10% of my clients. IT manager, an entrepreneur from a brick and mortar. I'm also working with did I mention executive? Yeah, executive I mentioned. I'm also working with a stay-at-home, like mom. I'm working with a couple of students. Like they're not in my main, but they main niche, but they found me through my niche. Actually, when I start working with people, they connect me with all these people that I work with. And if I actually wanted to, I can build another niche. If I, and as my team is growing, I will do that. I think I love working with salespeople who are in high ticket sales, online or in person. I love working with entrepreneurs of different kinds, but I actually haven't had the chance or the energy or the focus to even go there because I just have one niche I'm focused on, and there's more than enough clients in that space. And we want you to get to that point where you find that blue ocean where you can add that value, and there it's a narrow enough where you can talk to their challenges, you can talk to their growth patterns, you can understand them well, and they will find you better, and you build programs and processes for them. And those niches tend to there's a saying, what was that saying? The riches are in the niches.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So, okay, to recap, number one is coach, coach, coach. Number two is pay attention to those patterns, the similarities, the things that you're attracted to in other people and the things that repel you about other people. The third one is to start to classify them. As you see the patterns, start to think, okay, that pattern that I'm seeing, I definitely do, like, under no circumstances am I going to take anybody that has this, because it is like exhausting and maddening and like I just don't get it, whatever that might be. But then also classify them of, like, yeah, this is somebody that I would actively would love to work with, and just work on narrowing it down. And as Faisal said, it doesn't mean that if they're not exactly in what you are developing as your niche or your avatar, your ideal client, that doesn't mean you won't work with them. But you kind of start to recognize, like, I would love to maybe have it, 70% of my clients with these characteristics, and, and really work at that. And one thing I noticed you said, Faisal, is you talked about like their jobs, which is an easy way of classifying people. But honestly, and I know you see this too, that might not actually be how you classify people. Things that have already been brought up today is how much of a bigger vision do they have in their life? This is something that I have recognized over the years as a psychologist and now as a coach. That is a differentiator for me. One of my superpowers I have identified is I see potential. And as a real estate investor, I see potential in properties. As a coach, I see potential in people. Where I got my energy zapped is when I work with somebody where I see the potential more than they do, and they don't really want to go towards potential. So if I have a stronger vision for their life and they don't have an interest in developing theirs, that's a no-go for me. That's something I've just realized, like, no, we're not the right client for me, because it will be frustrating for me. I will find myself wanting to work harder than they do on their own life. And nobody wins in that scenario.
Yeah.
So, yeah. So the number 3 is start to narrow down and get a little bit more specific based on some of these characteristics, mindsets, psychographics that matter to you.
Yeah. And the final one is deep dive into that type of person. Once you figure out, like, you feel aligned with them, you get excited to be there. And I still remember I actually got a contract coaching position in this field. All I had to do is listen to like 3 calls from this other coach who was running this community. By the time I got to the third call, I didn't even negotiate the rates yet. I was like, I'm in. I just sent a message, I'm in. I just loved the things that they were thinking about going, because I got excited about it. I'm like, I don't care what they're paying me right now, but I want to grow within this world. And that's exactly what happened. I got paid a third of what I wanted to get paid, but within 2 years, I was making 3 times more. It's because I enjoy working with them. I want to work them. I want to expand there. So deep dive, which means that now start researching, start going deeper, work with them at a one-on-one level, at a group level, go hang out at their events, understand what their challenges are, research more with them. And that's the 4th point. And by the way, you can reverse this whole thing. So this is a way of approaching it. Don't think this is the only way. There are people who will just pick a niche, be like, I would love working with these kind of people. They would do all their research about them, and they will start to build content, and they will start to reach out to those kind of people and reverse this whole process. But what I've seen more often than not, this is how coaches grow when I've seen experienced coaches. So especially if you feel like you're bogged down, you can't find the right client, then this is an easier process. Your job is to get people on your calendar and keep some general things in mind, the kind of people that you want to work with, but start getting clients on your calendar, potential clients. Once you start to do that, you will learn this process. It will get more and more refined. But the one thing not to do in this whole process, whether you're going it the way we're saying or the other way around, is to just stop and be in the theory mode and not iterate, not work with people, because that will not help you build a business.
Yes, the metaphor that I frequently go back to is you cannot steer a ship that is anchored. It has to be traveling in some direction. You can turn it around at any point, but once you throw that anchor down, you're not going anywhere. You can't steer it. So my encouragement to you is, even if you're not sure who your ideal client is, even if you're not sure how to get the next client, even if you're not sure, do it anyway.
Yep.
Just keep trying things. And the more that you try things, the more that you continue to seek out advice, recommendations, support from communities like ours, you will find success. I love how Alex Hermosi says it. It says basically, continue to do the thing so much that it would be unreasonable for you not to have success.
Yeah, and it's just all the things that we're talking. You having a functioning business, you having a consistent set of clients is an effect. It's not the actual thing. The actual thing is actually you putting yourself out there, you putting an effort, finding people, connecting with people, finding the right community of coaches and business owners to give you feedback. And if you don't know where to get started, or you've gotten started and you're getting mixed results, join us in our community. Find the link for our Facebook group. We've already found many of the solutions around this. We're getting a lot of feedback from our coaches who are putting themselves out there. We're giving you a lot of content in the form of podcasts, but in our group, we're supporting people even more. So join our group if you're not in it. If you are in our group and you haven't talked to us yet, in our Facebook group, so we can support you to move your business to the next level, to help you keep you accountable, give you the right support, the right process, then definitely book a call with us. Just type #call and we'll reach out to you to book a call. And we're excited to have you join us in the next episode, which is going to be next week.
Sounds good. See you next week. Bye.
You're listening to the Coach's Journey Podcast.